Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard to a Friday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the mobile unit of the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, as we are en route to a special location and hope to bring you some exclusive news here in about 20 minutes in regards to Indiana's newest football coach. We'll save that for a little bit. Looking forward to another great show today. Bob Kravitz on board. Zach Osterman, who has been following this story and doing a great job of it all week for the Indy Star. Congratulations to Zach. And I'm not sure who else we got at the end.
We got Jeffrey the Greek will be making an appearance, and so will Travis Miller.
Oh, baby.
In the second hour.
And I meant to reach out to our good friend that I'm drawing a blank on as we are driving, literally going down the road, trying to get to this special place. Oh my gosh. You do the podcast with it. Mitchell Page, yes. Should have, I meant to reach out to Mitchell to get him on to talk about the new coach and his thoughts. As Indiana has announced that they have hired Curt Cignetti from James Madison. That is, I've got to be honest with you. I can't find a hole in how this is a bad hire. I think this is a good hire for Indiana. I started sending out yesterday after going through his resume that I thought he was the guy. I don't remember. Did we talk about it much on the show yesterday, John?
We talked a lot about how things were progressing towards Curt Cignetti being the guy, but nothing was official at the time.
Yeah, and so we were in front of that a little bit. I'll take a little bit of credit, and but his resume, as I started going through it, is pretty significant. The one thing that stood out to me most, he doesn't lose. He has not had a losing season as a head coach ever. And I know it has not been at Auburn or Ohio State, but that doesn't matter. Kalen DeBoer didn't have that record at a school like that. But all he did was win at every level he was at. But Curt Cignetti has not had a losing season, and he's built up every program he's been to. When you can get a program like James Madison ranked in the top 25, you've accomplished something. You're up there with the big boys. But his roots are deep in football. His father was on the staff of Bobby Bowden at West Virginia. And then when Bob Bowden left, his dad became the head coach at West Virginia, where he won nearly 200 games as head coach there, which is significant. Of course, Curt Cignetti, born in Pittsburgh, in the cradle of what is football in this country, Pennsylvania, one of those states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, but. And then he has just won. Plus, he's already coached at Indiana University, although that was Indiana University of Pennsylvania, but still counts in some way. It must have been some karma going on there. But Curt Cignetti is the new football coach at Indiana. I expect he's either going to be announced via a press conference and possibly brought out at halftime. I think I posted this yesterday. I would not be surprised if you do not see him at halftime of tonight's men's basketball game with Indiana taking on Maryland in their first Big Ten matchup as that gets underway tonight. Last night, the women up in Maine for a game in honor of Mackenzie Holmes was not a gimme. Indiana had to fight for that and pulled away there toward the end, but that was not an easy game for them, but they get the W and get out of there. But looking forward to another fun show. Bob Kravitz will be joining us right about the time. Well, he's probably going to be on just before we
yes, he'll be on a little bit before
arrive at our destination, so that'll be good. So, but
one other thing,
Bob
real quick,
you
may be aware of this already, but Curt Cignetti also got Nick Saban's blessing yesterday, quoting on the hire, saying that they're not only getting a great coach, they're also getting a coach who does things the right way. I mean, do with that what you will. He's not really saying anything, but it is the words of Nick Saban.
Hey, anytime you get a comment from a coach that's won 6 national championships, that's a great blessing to get. He was on Saban's first staff at Alabama. I failed to mention that. So he's also coached in the South. So you want to talk about recruiting connections? You know he has them. But his number one job right now, normally it would be to win the press conference. That's not going to be a problem. If you saw him, College Game Day went to James Madison a couple of weeks ago, or was it a week ago? I don't know.
It was one of their final regular season games. Unfortunately, that ended up being their only loss of the season. But yes, they did go to James Madison's game versus App State.
But just by that, you can see the charisma that he has. He's not afraid to grab the mic. He'll win the press conference. So that's not what I'm worried about, or not worried, but his first job is going to be to re-recruit as many players that are currently in the portal right now for Indiana, including quarterback, running back, the entire offensive line, defensive players. So he's got a job ahead of him just recruiting his old players back. Well, not his players, but Indiana players back. That'll be job number one for Curt Cignetti. And I think that he'll win some and he'll lose some, and it won't necessarily be about him. It's going to be their problem. Some of these guys are going to get offers to go to some good places and get paid. So we'll see how it works out. But regardless, Indiana, I think, has made the right hire, a good hire, the best hire that they could make. Everyone has always thought, well, who could Indiana get? Well, this is the guy. And I said, I think at the beginning of this, it'll probably be someone you've never heard of. And it's not that people may not have ever heard of him, but a lot of people have not paid attention to James Madison, even though they have been ranked in the top 25 for most of this year. And we're all nearly finished the season undefeated. Like you said, they end up going 11-1. We're ineligible. We're going to have still been playing in the Sun Belt Championship, but are ineligible because they had too much success in their first year. I think Indiana fans will be just fine with that. They won't have those limitations. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can get done in his first year in Indiana, but we're not even there yet. He's been officially announced by Indiana on paper as the next football coach, but he has not been introduced publicly. That will be coming today. I am very, very certain on that, let's say. And like I said, I think that you'll see him tonight for those going to the basketball game. I think you'll see him brought out at halftime. I would be surprised if he's not, because I can tell you he will be in Bloomington today, without question. As a matter of fact, he'll be in Bloomington in about 13 minutes. But looking forward to following up on that. And it's exciting to be able to talk about Indiana football in a positive way. Not that Tom Allen didn't bring some positive things. Obviously, we know how it ended, unfortunately, for Tom. But now Indiana has to look to turning the page and opening up a new chapter and potentially a chapter of competitive football. And it's an exciting thing to look forward to as a journalist, to see something potentially happening like that when you've covered a program that has had ups and downs, mostly downs, for them to find success, to see Memorial Stadium filled more often than empty is something else to potentially look forward to. So a lot to get to today. Of course, Indiana opening up the Big Ten slate tonight as they take on Maryland. That game is at 7 p.m. at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Also tomorrow, the men's soccer team, they make their attempt to reach their 23rd College Cup as they take on number 2 Notre Dame up in South Bend. That game that match at 5 p.m. I have to look. I'm assuming that'll probably be a Big Ten Plus or an ESPN Plus thing to watch it on. So we've got that going for us. It's time to take a break. We'll do that, and we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right. Excuse me.
It's going to be tricky. Keep going.
You at the airport yet?
Yeah. We're all about, here, but not pulled in yet. It's all the way up.
I'm going to step out for just a second. I'll be right back.
I think we have to turn right, actually. John, if there comes a time where I have to do some talking to somebody, Bob will be on. You may have to jump in.
What do you mean? Like if you have to just get off? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
I may have to mute myself, and if I have to talk to somebody.
That's fine. Just try to be, I guess, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess just, don't just randomly do it, I mean, I guess I can just pay attention to it. It's fine.
I'll say, John, I'm going to need you to, no, it's on up. That's the fire station.
That is fine. I remember vividly the day after Mike Woodson was hired, I did the entire show. Not just Charlie Miller was with me, but I was hosting that day. It was one of the first few days I was working with him.
What did I do? What was I doing?
I don't remember the circumstance, but I just know you weren't on the show.
That's crazy. Oh, here we go. Just keep going straight. There's an IU person.
All right, 30 seconds.
We're good.
I'm going to bring us back in, Jimbo.
Returning students, no matter where you go to school, at the Golf Club at Eagle Point.
Yeah, that's no indicator.
For just $299. That's right. Play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by The Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hold on a second. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday, December 1st, no less. First day of December. Welcome aboard. We're working on bringing you a little bit of exclusive content as I meander around. Pardon the for those of you that are watching. And John Boy, stay close by. Bob Kravitz expected to be here soon, as a matter of fact. And he had a piece out about this hire as well. There he is. Bob, I'm going to let you talk to John for just a second, if you wouldn't mind.
Where are you at?
Well, I'll explain that to you in just a second.
Okay.
Here, I'll keep an eye on Jim in the green room. So Jim, Bob, is at the airport. He is currently awaiting newly announced Indiana head football coach Curt Cignetti. I don't know what all he is going to do, but that is the short version of what he is doing.
Okay. What a fine journalist he is.
Oh yeah, I learned of his escapade moments before we began the show this morning. So it's been a fun 20-25 minutes or so.
I can imagine.
So Mr. Kravitz, what's going on with you today? Obviously everybody in not only your circle, but everybody in the state of Indiana has kind of been following along with the Indiana head football coaching search. And came to a head yesterday with Curt Cignetti being announced, and we are expecting an official announcement involving Cignetti later this afternoon. So what are kind of your thoughts on the hire and the process that led to it?
Well, I thought it was really well done. The fact clearly they had their eyes on a few people weeks ago. I mean, you don't just fire a guy on a Saturday or Sunday, I should say, and then 4 days later you've got your man. So this is something they've been thinking about for quite some time. Clearly Dolson had made up his mind on Tom Allen quite a bit earlier in the season, as evidenced by the fact that they got their guy within 4 days. I'm headed down there in a couple of hours for the press conference. I'll stick around for IU Maryland and go to Knicks.
So busy lot of days going on for Indiana. I've been keeping an eye on Jim. Jim, I believe, are you back with us? Are you back? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Well, momentarily, getting ready to pull in the damn seatbelts. What are they good for? Making noise. John, just go ahead and take it back for a second.
Okay. We'll keep him. I guess he'll inform me one way or another. But
okay.
Again, so
I think it's a good move. I don't know a ton about the guy. Excuse my voice; it's kind of going on me. I don't know a ton about the guy. Obviously he's gone into bad situations and made them good situations everywhere he's gone. I mean, the only concern I have is that he doesn't have experience with NIL. He was the recruiting coordinator at Alabama a long time ago, but that was in the pre-NIL days. I have to assume that at JMU, he didn't have to deal with NIL very much, if at all, which is something that I'll ask him today.
Okay.
So that's my only concern. But good God, he's a winner. 52-9 is hard to argue.
13 seasons as a head football coach, not necessarily at the FBS level for all of those years, but he's had a winning season at every stop that he's had in 13 of those seasons. So again, no matter where he's at, that's impressive regardless. Obviously, he did win the FCS national championship with James Madison before they made the jump to FBS. So an impressive resume, all things considered. One other thing. Sorry, my mind is in two different places, and
that's okay.
I had a question I was going to ask you, but I'm trying when I'm watching the Jim Coyle expedition, and I'm also trying to control a radio show. Things can get a little difficult sometimes.
I understand. I can come up with my own questions for myself, I guess.
One thing, man, Normally I can normally do this. I do a podcast with a few other guys. I'm
Right.
usually not flustered either, but it's
That's
one of
okay.
those things where
Calm down, take a deep breath. It's all good, brother.
Jim's giving me the thumbs up, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pull him back in here too.
All right.
Oh, heck yeah, man. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Yeah, we
man.
are.
I'm drowning, Jim. Thanks for saving me.
Jim, what
Hey,
are you
brother.
going to do once you get to Cignetti? Just get his first official words? Is that the deal?
Buddy, I'll let you know when it happens. I have no idea. There is no plan. Just got the word that he would be arriving at 9 a.m. Here at I'm out at the Monroe County Airport right now, where I'm only here for the second time in my life. So looking forward to that. But yeah, would be exciting to see. We weren't turned away, so that's one thing I'm a little surprised about, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you seem to be right out there on the tarmac. You know,
we were told right where to go.
Don't get hit by a plane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make sure that doesn't happen. No, you had a great piece out yesterday about the hiring, about how it went. I'd started going through his resume, and the day before, and I'm like, man, I think this is the guy, because people always say, who can Indiana get? Well, you have to get the right guy, and his resume started to remind me of Kalen DeBoer in that he has just won everywhere he's been. And I know it's been at a lower level, but he's just won. He doesn't lose. He doesn't have a losing seasons. He's got football in his veins. I mentioned this earlier. He was born in Pittsburgh, the cradle of football. His dad was a football coach under Bobby Bowden. He won 200 games himself almost at West Virginia as a head coach. So, and he's got the charisma. We saw him on Saturday, college game day not too long ago, take the mic and talk to the crowd. So, but more importantly, I heard you mention he's not had to deal with NIL. Well, Indiana hasn't really either. If you want to be truthful,
yeah. They haven't dealt with it the way they need to deal with it. I think, look, I think this guy's got a chance to be successful because I think Indiana is finally understanding what they need to do to make sure that the new guy is successful. If Indiana doesn't spend the money, and we heard Matt Rule just the other day talk about how it costs, $1.5 to $2 million for a good quarterback in this current day and age. If they're willing to pay the price, then they can be good with Cignetti. If not, then it's going to be the same old at Indiana. It just is.
It appears that Jim has. As he comes back into there,
he's back.
He's back.
I see a plane behind you, Jim. Is that it?
Well, that's actually just a pickup truck.
No, there was one.
The other one.
Yeah.
That one's been sitting there for. That was here yesterday.
That's my private plane.
That's waiting to take you back to Florida.
Exactly. That'll be nice. I can't wait.
But just to being able to talk about Indiana football in a positive fashion is something that even as a reporter, it's exciting because it's not something we get to do very often.
Right. No, look, I mean, every time you bring in a new guy, there's that hope. There's that that hope that he's going to turn things around. Look, I thought the same thing of Cam Cameron and a lot of guys, but if they give him what he needs in terms of NIL money, then I think he can be successful. If they don't, if they continue to try and do things on a shoestring, then he's going to suffer the same fate as every other guy who's ever come through here. So, look, I think this is more on Dolson, who, by the way, is the one who extended Tom Allen and gave him that incredible buyout. I think this is more on Dolson than it is on Cignetti.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, I don't know what I want to go as far to say as his career rides on it, but it can't be far from that after the extension of which they, I put that in the story yesterday, after having to hand even though it's going to be 15 million instead of 20, that's still having to hand that over. This is kind of going to be his make or break hire, I think.
I think it's important for him. I think at IU, you got to get the basketball coach right. You know, I mean, the football coach, if you screw it up, I think you get a second chance. But if you screw up the basketball coach, if Woody turns out that he's not the guy, then you've got some issues. But, you know, the rest of the department's doing quite well, you know, and you give Fred Glass credit for that too. Yeah, I think it's intriguing. It's exciting. New guy is always exciting. I'll be interested to get down there for the press conference this afternoon.
What time is it?
I think at 2:30. I believe.
Yep, that's correct. 2:30.
2:30. I just got to figure out exactly where it is on campus, and I know it's in the team room, but I'm not sure where the team room is.
Oh, that's in the bowels of the Memorial Stadium. That would be on the northeast side.
Okay. Yeah. I think I know where it is, but I'll get there early and walk around and look for somebody I know.
Yeah, it's near the weight room, just down the hall. But so obviously we will be out there as well for that. So looking forward to that, and I fully expect that the fans will see Coach Curt Cignetti tonight at halftime of the IU Maryland game. I would be surprised if they don't bring him out.
Right. I think that's going to happen. That's going to be a really interesting game tonight. Really interesting game. We'll find out. We'll find a lot. Find out a lot. Excuse me. English is a second language. We'll find out a lot about the Hoosiers because so far I've not been terribly impressed.
No, unfortunately, they're going up against a Maryland team that has not exactly been impressive. They started out with 3 straight. They didn't start with 3 straight losses, but they had 3 straight losses. But they've won 3 straight now. They don't do well on the road. They had a horrible road record last year. They couldn't win on the road if you paid them. They won most of their games in Maryland, but we'll see if they've gotten over that as well. If they can make life rough on Indiana. Mackenzie Mbako, still waiting for him to come out of his shooting slump from behind the arc. What's that?
I mean, you know, the big thing is they got to figure out a way to stop the 3. I mean, see, my computer is dying, so I'm messing around with my charger. Here we go.
Yeah, one thing I had seen as far as stopping the 3, that they had been killed in the first half, but there's been 2 games where they shut the teams down basically in the second half. Going back to the most recent game against Harvard, Harvard was 8 of 17 in the first half. But in the second half, Indiana was able to hold them to 1 of 9 behind the arc. And there was another game, I don't know if it was Wright State or who it was, that they really just shut down in the second half. I don't know if that was an adjustment, which it would sound like that it was, or if it was pure dumb luck.
Yeah, well, the fact they went to a zone, I remember watching the game. I turned to my wife. I said, Coach Knight is rolling over in his grave. Woody went to a zone. Oh, my God. And that's something that I thought Matt Painter should have considered when they were getting run off the floor by Fairleigh Dickinson. But he'll never do it. And I don't understand it. I mean, every once in a while, a zone is effective.
Well, and it caught Louisville by surprise. It caught Kenny Payne by surprise, and it was the difference in winning and losing that game.
There's no question. There's no question about it. And you know, look, you're not admitting defeat by going to a zone. I mean, every once in a while, it's the right move And I don't understand why these guys are so stubborn about not going zone.
Yep, well, we'll certainly find out. I'll certainly look forward to seeing you in a I guess a few hours.
Yes, I'll be there, and I'll be at Nick's later tonight for sure. I'm going to spend the night.
Oh, all right. So I'll just say we'll have to see you either before for dinner. I'll be at Hoosier Hanks East for the post-game show afterwards. We have a post-game show with Todd Leary, and so then I can get out and about. But I'll be over at Hoosier Hanks East. You're welcome to join us there as well after the game. But what do you have coming up next? I know you've got so much that you're covering right now. The Pacers in the midst of the in-season tournament, which they lost last night, but they picked things back up on Monday with the Celtics.
Well, they play the Heat again on Saturday down in Miami, so that's an important game for them to bounce back. And then obviously Monday is the in-season tournament, which they seem to get excited for. Again, today I got Cignetti and I've got the IU game. And then Monday we've got the Pacers and then back to the Colts because the Colts are actually playing meaningful football. So busy time.
And all right, well, let's take a break and see where we are here. Jim Coyle with Bob Kravitz. Thank you so much. Make sure you go to bobkravitz.com. His Substack material is keep reading that. It's great stuff he's putting out. Make sure you give him a follow as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com. We've got more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Monroe County Airport. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Thank you, Bob, for
thank you, guys.
Yeah, I wonder if we were allowed to go over there.
Yeah, this guy's walking in and out over there.
I don't know how to get in there, though.
Queen of England. Well, I guess the King of England now.
And then they just walked right through the gate right there.
Who did?
This guy in this little BMW.
All right, let's follow me, or let me follow you.
Maybe you can.
Where am I? Where did he go in through?
Okay, these cars in that parking lot right there. There seems to be a walk gate. See those guys going in and out?
Get up. All right.
See them, they're walking in and out. Pretty free.
Yeah.
Vans over there.
Yeah.
Want me to drive over this?
Yeah. We've only got, man, he's here, so we're gonna miss it. I wonder if I should have just driven over there or walked over there.
What do you? So I don't know. What are you gonna
drive you over here so you're closer? And walk.
He's landed.
Okay.
Just drive over. Drive over. They're pulling in there. That car just pulled in there. Direct. I thought I lost you.
I thought I might have too. Feel like I'm watching Entertainment Tonight or something.
Pull into Cook. Oh,
yes.
I just parked right here. Just park right there. Oh.
Got about 1 minute till we're back. I'll stay on the segment with you if it makes it easier.
How you doing? What did they say? You have to. You're not allowed to go over there.
TMZ, that's what it is. Great,
yeah.
Good call there.
Indiana rivals and. Yeah. They've got the band out there.
All right, 30 seconds, Jim. A plate.
All
But in
right.
Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering, serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by WOW Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here at the airport, actually. We're waiting the arrival of new football coach Curt Cignetti. And I don't know if you can see in the background, but band members. No, what can you see? I can't tell what I'm showing you. I'll be honest with you. John
You can
Boy.
see a little bit of, you can tell that there's people there, but if you wouldn't have mentioned that they were band members, you wouldn't know who they are probably.
Yeah, and I know those of you listening on radio can't see that, but here out of the airfield, and Indiana is making the going all out as they have the band inside, so we're doing that. Stepping in is Coach Cignetti. Thank you, sir. Making his arrival here. And there is a plethora of media waiting here, as you can see in the background. As I said, there's a room full of them. They're there where it's nice and warm. They're much smarter than us. So I'm going to stay out here where it's a little warmer, but a huge welcoming party for Indiana's newest football coach out here right now. And I'm going to hold the camera that way, John, and hopefully you can just tell me if I need to move it in a direction where it's better to be seen.
Fine. Yeah, there's
Perfect.
The landing strip.
As I can tell, it looks like we're the only media here. The AP photographer is here. Other than that, I think it's just Indiana Sports Beat Radio and the AP photographer. So kind of like that. How are you doing today? Pretty good. I appreciate you guys. It's we could have got a little bit better weather, but it's just one of those things that you don't always get to do because you don't always get the information. Luckily, we were able to get a phone call. As you can see, they're actually literally rolling out the red carpet. Now, can you see that, John?
Yep.
Literally rolling out.
see
Literally.
the crimson carpet, if you will.
Oh, hey. What a good catch there. But as you can see, a number of IU representatives here as they have rolled out the red carpet waiting for the arrival. Have you ever had a red carpet rolled out for you?
I don't think I'll ever have a red carpet rolled out for me, but it is interesting to see an Indiana football coach get the red carpet treatment. That's for sure.
Yeah, I wish that there was a way I could turn my camera around so I could hold it and see it. And there probably is, but I'm not smart enough on how to do that. The AP photographer is going to help me figure that out, hopefully, while we're on live. Yeah, this is a funky one because we're going through StreamYard. We'll have to figure that out at another time.
I'm not AP, but
Oh, he's with the Bloomingtonian now. Where'd you switch over?
well, so I'm not on mic.
Yeah, I'm on. Hold him. John, put me on mute for a second.
All right, there we go. So Jim's got himself on mute. We are obviously waiting for the official arrival for Curt Cignetti. It appears he has landed at the Monroe County Airport, and we were waiting for him to come out of the plane. They've already laid out the red carpet as we mentioned. And one thing I forgot to bring up with Bob Kravitz earlier, as I was struggling with words, as you know, we were trying to figure things out. The one concern that people seem to have, other than what Kravitz laid out, is that yes, he's 62 years old, and I do think there are pros and cons to that age for a head coach at some place like Indiana. The pros, I think, is that Cignetti is the kind of guy with this kind of job where this may be his final landing spot. I do believe on the Pat McAfee show, when he was on that during whenever College Game Day visited, I do believe he told Pat McAfee that he plans to coach for at least 13 more years. So if you get 13 seasons with Curt Cignetti at Indiana football, yes, that seems like when you think you already know the time frame in advance, I can see why that would be frustrating, because it's like, oh, you might only get 13 seasons with him. But here's the thing. If you can get 13 seasons for anybody at Indiana football and they're not getting let go at the end of it, that just shows
I'm sorry, guys.
how good things would be going if he were to be, stay the entire time in Bloomington. Now, again, only time will tell if that works out as Jim Coyle rejoins us. But that is go ahead, Jim.
I'm just saying, I'm back. Indiana has requested that any media here, myself and the reporter from the Bloomingtonian, be put outside of the fence. And although they have a marching band, there's the cheerleaders. They've probably brought about 100 people out here, but we're not supposed to be anywhere near it, which is funny. But
so you're as close as you're going to get at this point, right?
Yeah, but that's okay. And we're asked not to talk to the coach, but so there's no exclusives done that way. But hey, the Bloomingtonian and Indiana Sports Beat were here, and so that's something you can know. For those of you that live in Bloomington, Bloomingtonian is a great place to pick up a lot of great information. But we're still awaiting the arrival of the plane carrying Curt Cignetti, and Indiana making a big deal of it, like I said, with the piece of the pep band out here, several representatives of the athletics department. I mean, cheerleaders. So they've got a lot going on. They got the van ready to take you. A lot of
people on the Andy Moore Honda hotline upset that you got thrown out of where you were at waiting for Curt Cignetti.
Well, I'm not any less turned off by it, I'll be honest with you. And it's actually a public airport, and normally they wouldn't be able to do that, but we probably could have refused, to be honest with you, but it wouldn't bode well for either of us to have done that. So we just do the right thing as the cheering begins.
See, I do believe, we are getting the arrival of.
You see the plane coming
right
through there?
Oh, there we go. A plane has landed.
Yep, there it is. There's live coverage of Curt Cignetti landing here in Bloomington. As you can see, the contingent of IU people now coming closer and closer, waiting him to come around. So, Curt Cignetti setting foot on the ground, or not on the ground yet, but his plane is on the ground here in Bloomington. I've never done live coverage of a plane landing. I'm going to be honest with you. And I wish it would have been a warmer day to do my first.
Very rainy day as well.
Rainy and cold. It's a typical Bloomington December day. But you got to do what you got to do and go where you got to go to bring the information to the people, baby. It sounds like my lips are numb.
And they might be. You've been out wandering around the airport grounds for a good 30 to 40 minutes now.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool to be able to cover this and bring this to people, and to know that you're bringing it to them first. So
it's true. As you mentioned, you're the only radio show out there. The Bloomingtonian, man, that's tough to say for some reason, is out there as well. I do believe our guest coming up, Zach Osterman, is on his way here too. He's going to be joining us from his vehicle whenever he chimes in here in about 10 minutes or so. But big day for Indiana athletics, obviously. Not only the football program bringing in Curt Cignetti, but the basketball team plays Maryland to open up conference play tonight, where you mentioned earlier, Jim, that there may be an appearance from one Curt Cignetti potentially.
Oh, I would be shocked if he's not brought out at halftime. There's no way that making this kind of showing already with part of the pep band and cheerleaders on his arrival, that they don't bring him out to the crowd. I will guarantee you that. I would
hopefully
be
he doesn't.
shocked.
Hopefully he doesn't pull. Oh man, he doesn't act like the former Notre Dame Brian Kelly. He doesn't need to pull an accent thing here.
I can't tell you how much I enjoy coming here to Southern Indiana.
As it appears the plane is, for those not watching, obviously on YouTube, the plane is currently arriving at the where all the media, where all the band and the cheerleaders are, and obviously the crimson red carpet has been rolled out for one Curt Cignetti, and it appears we are moments away from boots on the ground here in the Monroe County Airport as Curt Cignetti arrives in Bloomington.
Absolutely, as he is about to disembark from the plane. See if I can get as good a position as possible without busting my butt. How's that, John? You're gonna have to direct me on what you can see.
Yeah, but as good. That's as good as now that you've got the. Oh, now you got the camera right in front of the barbed wire. There we go.
Yeah, you've got to direct me, my friend, because I can't see it. But
if you move a little bit, there we go. Hold it still right there, or as still as you can.
Yeah.
And again, everybody lined up, the band in position, cheerleaders in position, and you can call this the unofficial beginning of the Curt Cignetti tenure, as the door drops from the plane as Coach Cignetti prepares to take his first steps onto the Monroe County. And there we go. As the band begins to play as well. As you may be able to hear a little bit of the band in the background.
And there's Curt Cignetti walking forward. There's his first coming in. And there he's going to get on in this van here and go away. But Curt Cignetti landed here in Bloomington along with his wife, as they will be taking, and there's Scott Dolson, the athletics director, along with several other members of the Indiana athletics program. But Scott Dolson doing a hell of a job with this hire, I have to say. And they go back out a little bit for some photo opportunities, I assume. But the band, the cheerleaders, welcoming new football coach Curt Cignetti as he has landed here in Bloomington. And he will be whisked away to his new digs at Memorial Stadium, I'm sure. Curt Cignetti, thanking everybody for coming out.
And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments on the Andy Moore Honda hotline saying that they think this is a bit of overkill. Has Indiana ever? I don't think they've ever rolled out the red carpet for a head football coach like this. And I'm not saying I agree with the people who are saying this, but this is the most fanfare that we've ever seen for a new hire in the Indiana football program.
Well, for one thing, the last time they hired a football coach, they walked down the hallway.
They did. That's true.
Scott Dolson there, as I said, did a hell of a job on this hire. Think about how quickly this happened. Now, he had to have I'm thinking he had to have a short list before
absolutely yes.
The fire was made, because this happened. Think about this. They announced the firing of Tom Allen on Sunday, and they've got their new guy by Thursday. So that is a great job by Scott Dolson and staff, who used the search firm to help things along. But yeah, the fanfare, this is, I think, part of Indiana showing that, hey, we've got to take football seriously, much more seriously than we have in the past, because if we don't, they're in danger of being left behind in this day and age of college athletics, where football drives the train. And there you go. He's getting back out to the coach to take pictures himself of his welcoming crew. He's in a gray suit, by the way.
Move your camera to the left slightly. Move your cam. Well, okay.
Well, you got to keep guiding me. Since I can't.
It's hard to guide when it's just moving kind of sporadically, which I know you can't.
Yeah,
you do your best.
How about that?
There we go. As he hops back into the vehicle there outside the plane. I'm going to tag on to what you just said. Indiana has one opportunity to get this right as you transition into a new era of college football, and right now they're doing everything right that they needed to do. They made the quick decision to move on from Tom Allen, and they had their candidates in place for who they wanted, and they made the hire quickly in less than a week, especially in this era of NIL and transfer portal. And then not only that, next year you have a brand new look college football with 4 additional teams in your conference, as well as the SEC and a 12-team playoff. If there's any time to rebrand yourself for Indiana football, this is the time to do it. Because if you don't do it now, like you said earlier, Jim, they're 100% going to get left behind.
Without question. And there's been the pledge of $3 million to the NIL resources for NIL for football specifically. That is something they did not have before, which that may not be a lot when you compare it to the standards of higher profile schools, but it's $3 million more that was pledged prior. So That's a start, and Indiana was able to have some success without that. So as long as it's used in the right way, they will find success. And I think that they'll find that success with a guy named like Curt Cignetti, who has been nothing but successful everywhere he's gone. Like I said, winners win. And from everything that I've seen from Curt Cignetti, his resume, he has just done nothing but win. I don't care what level it's been on. And winners win. As you see the band now.
With that being said, Jim, let's we got a hard break coming up. Let's go ahead and get our next break out of the way.
Well, I'm glad we can bring this to everybody, our fans in Fort Wayne, especially, as well as the coaches leaving there in the van now. But yeah, we'll take a break with much more of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
How about that?
How about it? That was an intense
I
segment.
can remember your name.
Different way.
Jim Coyle. I host Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and I am the publisher for Rivals, Indiana Rivals.
I'm glad I was like, I told Kennedy, I'm like,
Someone said he looks like he's getting delivered in a UPS truck. I'm not going to lie, Brian. I was kind of thinking the same thing.
What was that, John?
Somebody commented it looks like he's getting delivered in a UPS truck. That did kind of look like a UPS vehicle he was hopping in.
Oh. Listen, out of my damn pocket, I don't even know.
What's his tracking number?
how are you guys with?
Student TV, baby.
Okay.
Not students. That's not illegal. It's
chartered.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much. I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna see. I don't know where my
Yeah, I agree.
chauffeur
They,
went.
it does look like Amazon. It really just looks like a delivery truck in general. But that's besides.
Oh,
It's really not even that important, I guess. But
I'm in the wrong freaking place. I got the wrong earbuds in, I think. Oh my God.
can you hear me, Jim?
Yep.
Okay. I want to know Pete was the chauffeur.
He is the chauffeur. I think I got my damn earbuds in backwards. All right, just drop me off at that one spot when we first came in. Yeah, I want to say thank you.
All right, we've got 30 seconds. I'll stay on with you until Zach hops on. Okay.
Damn it! I'm having trouble figuring out what side of the damn earbuds going. Am I going?
I don't know if he's
I
hearing me.
hate
Is he?
these earbuds.
Let me pull Zach in. Zach, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go and bring us back from break. And Jim, can you hear me?
Com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Cordell, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Zach Osterman joining us now. Jim I'll check in with him in just a second. I want to go and bring in our man from the Indy Stars, Zach Osterman. You've been all over the Curt Cignetti hire, which obviously that's been the topic of conversation for most of today. Obviously, Indiana moved very quickly with this one, and it appears that Scott Dolson did get the guy that he wanted from day one. And I'll just throw it to you. Just how did this play out, and how do you think this will work out for the Indiana football program?
Yeah, I think Dolson wanted to move fast. That's kind of what you have to do anymore in these situations because, if you are a program like Indiana, where obviously, there's kind of some rebuilding to do, you've not had a good time of late. You're going to want to be able to use the portal. You're going to want to be able to sort of use the transfer window in December aggressively, and Indiana's been able to put together, per my understanding, some pretty substantial NIL resources for that. But all that means that you can't really dawdle. These searches can't go, on through the bowl season the way they used to, or on through Christmas, and maybe you have somebody in January. You've got to be able to move quickly, and Indiana was, I think, sort of per my understanding, I think it's probably fair to say Scott Dolson had done some groundwork before he fired Tom Allen. I think we can all probably recognize maybe he had made the decision that was going to have to be the eventual sort of outcome before the end of the season, and he was able to just kind of, just build sort of a foundation for the search. He launched right into it. I think Indiana spoke to a lot of people. They obviously had a search firm to kind of help them with vetting and maybe some third-party back-channel communication in certain situations. They always wanted head coaching experience. I don't, if an assistant had just absolutely knocked their socks off, then I think they might have considered hiring that person. But I think they always wanted, an opportunity to try and find somebody that has a lot of experience running their own program that could hit the ground running, just right away, not really having to learn on the job at this particular time with the Big Ten getting more difficult and college football landscape being as complicated as it's been, or as complicated as it's become, I guess is probably the more accurate way to phrase that. And my understanding is by the time they got to kind of final interviews, final sit downs, it was pretty much only sitting head coaches or recently removed head coaches with a lot of previous success and previous experience that Dolson was sitting down with. And from there, I mean, I would say, Curt Cignetti's name, I think, probably gained some serious traction starting around, I would guess maybe Tuesday night is probably when I first heard. I would say guess, but I'm trying to remember. It's been a long week. And then I would say by early Wednesday, it felt like he had the most juice. He had the most sort of smoke, if you will. And obviously, I think by Thursday, we all could recognize that he was probably the eventual choice.
Hey, Zach, Jim Coyle back with you. Yeah, first of all, great job covering this for the Indy Star from the beginning. You were out in front of most of this. Congratulations. I know it takes a lot of hard work. Trust me, I'm out here freezing my shivers off at the airport back in the car, luckily. But yeah, I can't remember if it was probably early Wednesday. I kept looking through the different coaches, and I'm thinking it's got to be a head coach. And Cignetti's resume just resonated. He kind of reminded me of Kalen DeBoer in the sense that he just won everywhere he went, even though it may have been at a lower level. So was Kalen DeBoer's, but they won, and to win in a consistent fashion like that is more than luck. I don't care where you are or where you're going, and he has done that. That doesn't mean that he's going to come in here and wave a magic wand and Indiana is going to be 8-4 next year or whatever, but he has done a great job, and I think that's going to do a couple of things. That's going to give the current players that are in the transfer portal, they're going to give him a look, unless some are going to just go. They're going to get offers that they won't or shouldn't turn down. I get that. But he's going to keep a lot of them too, I think, because he has one, because he has a plan. You can't do what he's done without having a plan and a vision.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, 13 winning seasons in 13 years speaks for itself. And, you know, I don't think that matters a ton what level you're talking about. And obviously he went to Indiana, Pennsylvania from Alabama, which was a bit of a drop down, but he's got obviously some pretty strong family ties to that program. And I mean, you know, probably the program I would look at the most is Elon. That is historically a really tough place to win. And he kind of stepped in and, you know, just started winning pretty much right away. And it's also interesting.
Yeah, didn't he, when he went there, was it there or James Madison that had just a horrible season the year before his arrival?
I think it was Elon, and it's worth saying. I used to, my parents both went to Georgia Southern, so I grew up something of a Georgia Southern fan. You know, in the glorious days of my misspent youth, and Southern played in Elon's conference. Elon was in the Southern Conference, which back then was, you know, Furman, Georgia Southern, App State, schools that were competing for national titles every year at the FCS level, what we then called the 1AA level. And Elon was just, just to be frank, I'm not trying to be flippant, but it was an afterthought. It's a small school. I think it's always had a pretty strong academic reputation, which, of course, if you don't have a huge student body and you're kind of fighting against maybe the more traditional powers at your level, you know, stern academics don't always help. It's not an easy place to win, to just be completely frank. And what's interesting to me, too, about Cignetti is you look at the two places he's left previously, they have both hired coaches who were on his staff. And both times that success has pretty much continued. Elon has had 2 or 3 winning seasons in the last 5. They've been to the FCS playoffs. You know, Indiana, Pennsylvania, I think has always been a pretty good program at the Division II level, but they hired, I want to say, Cignetti's defensive coordinator when he left for Elon, and he's just kind of carried on that winning, just kind of without any real interruption. So it's also been interesting to me that when he has left programs, and it sounds like James Madison may want to look externally for his replacement, but when Cignetti has left programs behind, they have essentially said, we want to keep whatever it is he had going. We want to keep the energy. We want to keep the vibe. You know, this is the direction here we like. And I think that speaks well to probably his ability to staff, but it also, I think, speaks well to, you know, kind of to your point, just winning habits, winning culture, those kinds of things. When you leave and your school says, well, let's try to keep as much of what he was doing here as we can, you were probably doing something right. And again, everywhere he's left has kind of stayed a winner relative to its expectations, even after he walked out the door. So,
And then that brings up to my next coaching staff changes. Generally, when you have a change in regimes, it's pretty much I don't want to say everybody goes, but you have guys like gosh darn it, I'm drawing a blank on Brandon that's been coaching at IU for it's been like 13 or 14 seasons, but there's going to be a ton of turnover because he's going to want to bring in his own staff. This is a different level. He may want different people of his own in different places, but it's going to be interesting to see who he brings, if anyone is retained, and how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've already heard a pretty strong suggestion. He's interested in bringing both of his coordinators with him. I wondered if James Madison might look at either Mike Shanahan or Brian Haynes, and consider them for the head job again. It sounds like they want to look externally first, so that might open the door for those guys to join. Cignetti in Bloomington. I think there's some other coaches that he's had there. You know, Pat Kuntz is his defensive line coach, was a GA at Indiana one time. So was Haynes, different time. Kuntz was under Tom Allen. Haynes was under Kevin Wilson. But, you know, there's different kind of guys that have been with him for a while that I wouldn't be surprised for him to bring. I do suspect, you know, this is a guy with a lot of high major coaching experience in his background as an assistant. He was at Pitt, Rice, Temple, NC State, obviously Alabama. So you would imagine that even though he's been a head coach largely at the lower levels over the last 13 years, only brought James Madison up to the FBS 2 years ago, he probably still has some pretty good contacts and some pretty good connections. And if Indiana makes available the staffing salary pool that I expect them to, I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to take that for a walk and just see if there aren't maybe a couple positions where he can add some really meaningful, impactful names. And then will he retain anybody? I think that's always possible. I would look at like a Bob Bostad, for example, and just, you know, would he have some interest? Bostad made a really positive impression in his time in Bloomington. Obviously, that entire offensive line is either in the draft or in the portal right now. I'm not saying that you hire a coach back just because he can get you a few players out of the portal, but if you already feel like his credentials are good and you click with him, you know, my understanding is Cignetti will meet with pretty much everybody who's interested on Indiana's outgoing staff. If you click with a guy like that, then maybe his ability to help you bring a couple of those linemen back and not have to start completely all over along the offensive line might not hurt. It might not be it might not be the worst thing in the world. It might be, essentially, I would call it kind of like an extra sort of tick in the column, if you want to say. So, in general, I think that this staff is probably going to be a mix. At least, I mean, it's early. He literally was only announced 16 hours, 18 hours ago, whatever. But my early expectation is this staff will probably be a mix of guys he brings with him from James Madison, guys that he hires from the outside, and then maybe even some guys that are retained.
Yeah, and then the biggest job at Cignetti, he's got a lot of things. He's going to be a very busy guy. We just talked about the coaching situation. That's a lot to take in because that's a lot of positions, a lot of people. But his biggest job is going to be recruiting his own, it's not his own players, but Indiana's players, and having to go through all that, trying to retain the guys that he wants to retain from the portal. He's going to have to really dive into the portal for the first time and NIL, but at least he has that pledge of $3 million behind him from Indiana, which that is something that hasn't been there before. And like I said, you can compare that to other programs and scoff at it, but you shouldn't, because Indiana has had the ability to land successful players without that pledge. So I would imagine they're going to do a lot better with it. And he seems like someone who will pick up very quickly on getting guys out of the portal. Or they also have obviously done a great job developing players, because you have to do that at the level he's won at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a mix. I think there's a couple advantages. First of all, one of the advantages of making a hire like this, and I was not at all surprised to see Indiana grant Cignetti the opportunity to coach James Madison in its bowl game. We don't know when that'll be yet. We'll find out on Sunday, I suspect. I had a quick look at some of the projections. I think by and large, because James Madison is going to be taking a bowl at all this year, which, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but these NCAA transition rules, I think that it's more likely than not we're talking about a pre-Christmas bowl for James Madison, so that timeline will move fairly quickly. It's also worth saying, if Indiana made that sort of commitment to say, you can do this, you can coach here and also kind of start building with us, I suspect that Indiana's going to make planes available. Indiana's going to make sure Cignetti has whatever he needs for, virtual contact, whether it's a recruiting, staffing, whatever. It is going to be busy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of a weekdays in Harrisonburg, weekends in Bloomington kind of thing, in terms especially of the portal and getting some of these guys on campus and getting some visits going. But again, number one, they got this hire done very early. It's December 1st, and they already have a head coach who, again, from my understanding, is already building out some key elements of his staff. And number two, it's never been easier for a coach to do this, in terms of not just transportation to get from one place to another, but in terms of just kind of, our, I guess, broader societal comfort with using Zooms, using, FaceTime, using virtual communication as a means of building relationships. I think that's expected even more in the portal anymore, because guys who go into the portal are going to want that process to move fast too. They're not going to want to get to January 8th or 10th and not really know what they're doing. So it'll be very busy, but I don't think it'll be a huge hang up for Cignetti, to be honest.
I know we've got to let you go. Just last quick question. Were you surprised on how quickly Indiana was able to get this done, but also get it done seemingly right? I think this was as good a hire as they could make, and I think it's a good hire. And I think I haven't seen a ton of media right now because I've been working on it myself, but I haven't seen anybody that covers the program like you, like me, like whomever, that is not thought that it is a good hire. It's a guessing game yet, but I think this is probably as good as Indiana could have done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm long past trying to pretend that I know what a can't miss hire is. There's so many factors that go into it. But what I would say is, and while I don't think anybody was ever going to, offend Tom Allen or anything like that, I think we can probably presume, as I said earlier on, that, Indiana had a pretty good idea that it was going to be making a change before it did, and that you could lay some groundwork. You could, start building out some candidate lists, figuring out some things. I think that certainly, I know people sort of shudder when they see the words search firm, but I would be shocked if Scott Dolson did not find Turnkey's assistance in this process really valuable, just because of everything that a search firm can do to kind of help you tie up loose ends and fill gaps, and maybe make some calls or some connections that you don't want to make publicly because you don't want to be linked to certain things. You want to move discreetly, but you also want to move quickly and efficiently. Again, as I said at the top, these coaching searches, these coaching hires have to happen fast. If you're a program like Indiana that obviously needs some rebuilding, some retooling, some refreshing, you need to be able to maximize the portal, both in terms of maybe the guys that you're going to want to keep that are already in, and then obviously the guys that are in that you might want to bring in externally. You've got to have a guy in place that can really tackle that problem head on in a really big way, in a really aggressive way. And I think it's fair to say Indiana has proven kind of able to do that, frankly, for lack of a better term. Cignetti is, as you said, his resume kind of speaks for itself. It looks for all the world like a good hire. Indiana's going to have to make sure they keep supporting him and just keep upping the level of commitment, be it facilities, staffing, NIL dollars, whatever. But, Indiana kind of achieved everything it set out to here, and I don't think that should go kind of unnoticed.
Absolutely not. Neither should your coverage. Again, congratulations on being out in front of most of this week. Great job.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks. I appreciate it, Jim.
You bet. Zach Osterman, I'll see you in a few hours at the presser, and then tonight at the Indiana-Maryland basketball game.
Sounds good, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. That's why you be a subscriber to local newspapers, keep local papers alive and journalism going, as all of us are out trying to bring you the information. Zach did a great job on being in front of a lot of that as we tried to do the same. Fortunately, we were, in my knowledge, the only media that was there for the arrival of Curt Cignetti at the airport. The Bloomingtonian, which is a publication here in Bloomington. Jeremy, the photographer, was there. So, and then WIUX, but that doesn't count because they're with Indiana. So, yeah, Indiana Sports Beat bringing you the exclusive arrival of Curt Cignetti. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Good morning, Jeffrey.
How we doing?
Oh, baby, how have you been?
What's up, gents?
Well, I wish you had been watching the show. You would have probably laughed your ass off because the entire morning has been done either in a vehicle being chauffeured to the airport, and then the rest, half of it me standing out on a tarmac, and then being inside the gate, and then being ushered back outside of the gate.
Jim, if I logged in and you had jumped from an airplane to record, I would not be really all that surprised.
I love you for it, baby.
Let's do a terminal velocity show here before we're all said and done.
I'm all for it.
All right.
Are you going to Are you working your way to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship again this year?
The funny thing is, I have to go to a rehearsrsal tonight and then officiate a wedding tomorrow. I am
oh my gosh,
marrying a couple tomorrow.
Oh,
so the reception it's kind of laid back, but
Jim, are you glitching out on us?
No, what happened?
No, I think you're fine. You just had a bit of a. You're good, I think.
I hope so. Am I still good?
You're fine for now. I mean, if you drop, it drops.
Okay.
But
well, I'm this close to being back at the damn studio, which is funny. We will start this segment remote, and it will be finished in the studio.
Oh boy,
okay.
That's another.
I pushed. So obviously we're a few minutes late with Jeff, and I pushed Travis Miller back 5 minutes too, so we'll have the full 20 minutes or whatever it is. So,
okay.
Well, Jeffrey, the Greek is much more important.
Are we gonna play nice today, Jim?
Yeah, we're going to play nice. We're not going to talk about how bad the Big Ten West is. We're not going to talk about how the what is it in the Iowa isn't. What's the half a point thing I keep seeing about the?
We can talk about that. That's factual gambling stuff. I mean, that's
we don't have to talk about the Big Ten West. We can talk about the Big Ten 11. Basically, 11 teams almost sucked this year. I don't care what division you were in.
Okay. All right, let's.
Back. I don't know if you know, but I dubbed the rest of the conference the Big Rest, as in the big rest of the.
All right, here we go, guys.
Butcher, baker, and fish house. No matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac.
I got to get us in the gate.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, and it is a Friday before a ton of action going on. Indiana has a game tonight on the hardwood with Maryland to open up Big Ten play. Tomorrow is the Big Ten championship between Michigan and Iowa. And you want to talk about two teams that play in different directions. Iowa has zero offense and possibly the best defense in the conference. They have just not allowed anybody to score points, maybe save Penn State. But I'm interested to see this. Jeffrey the Greek joins us. He's not been with us. Been far too long. First of all, my friend, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Jim, John, thanks for having me on. Been too long.
Buddy, it's always my pleasure. Iowa and Michigan, not a shock. I will say that I thought that maybe Ohio State was going to knock off Michigan, but that didn't happen. Michigan continues to show that they are better than maybe I've given them credit for. They did not have a great schedule, but had to play.
Should I take over, John?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Oh, there he goes. He's back.
No, but that's pretty much it. You can go from there.
Right. Yeah, I guess as far as Michigan's schedule and Michigan, they've only lost one Big Ten game in 3 years, so I would say over the last 3 years with, virtually the same staff and a lot of the same players, I would say they've probably proved themselves just fine, even with the admittedly weak schedule, which really just comes down to they didn't have a big time out of conference opponent, to go up. Ohio State had Notre Dame. I mean, Penn State had West Virginia, a little bit step up. It's not like that was, a headliner type of game. So I guess to a certain degree, Michigan, I don't think Michigan has to really prove anything to anybody. They've been this good for quite some time now. With that being said, when the signal gate went down, and you wonder if there was a perceived advantage that they had, has that been removed from them the last couple of weeks? I don't know. It's that stuff's hard to figure it out. But in the end, whether it's been there and gone or not, they've continued to win games, which two of those games are against obviously Penn State and Ohio State, two teams that I think are fantastic. So again, there's really nothing Michigan has to prove. This team is excellent. There's nothing they have to prove at this weekend moving into the college football playoffs, which I think everybody assumes they will be there. That's where they have to start proving something.
Jim, do you want to get situated in your studio and I'll take over for a couple minutes?
Just one question is all it will take. Go right ahead.
There you go. So on the Iowa side of things, obviously it's the second time in a few years they've been in the Big Ten championship. Third time overall, correct? Since they've been in the divisions that Iowa's been in the Big Ten championship.
Yep, Michigan State, Michigan 2 years ago. Yep,
that's right. How do you feel just about Iowa in general? Obviously, the team is the stereotype for Iowa. We won't get into that, but just how do you feel about how the season's gone and your expectations for them against Michigan?
I mean, it's a great question. I can't answer the questions without talking about, the besmirching that goes against Iowa every single time, somebody just mentions the dirty word of the Iowa Hawkeyes. So you get to the point as a fan of Iowa, and I would throw it out there that really any fan, if put in Iowa fans' shoes, would feel the same way. Is at some point you get puffy chesty and say, screw you guys, we're winning games, you're not. And I nobody is trying to discount that it doesn't look fantastic. Okay, it looks pretty bad, most of the time. I'm not trying to say it doesn't. With that being said, this is it. This is what we got. This is what we got to work with. So proud of the fact that starting quarterback, starting top 2 tight ends, we've had running backs in and out, offensive linemen in and out, wide receivers in and out. We just lost our best player on defense and special teams. Through all of that, we keep winning games. And I just don't feel like Kirk Ferentz and his staff get enough credit for, being up against what they're up against and having the team cohesion to pull things together and win the games the only way they can, which is by defense and special teams and ugly. So I'm not expecting everybody to absolutely love how it looks, but I wish more people at least thought about, it's not easy to win like this, but they've been able to pull it off for 2, 3, 4 years now.
As Jim pops back in, do you mind if I ask you about the Curt Cignetti hire for Indiana?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are just kind of, first of all, your general thoughts, and then just because I wanted to get Jim caught up on what we're talking about, what are your just kind of overall general thoughts on how that went down, how quickly it went down, and the potential for how it could work out for Indiana?
Yeah, I'm not surprised so much that it went down that quick.
It needs to this day and age. It has to be quick.
Yeah, and I would say what I'd be curious to know is when Indiana made up their mind that they were going to make a change at head coach. By the way, since we're talking about Indiana, shout out to my girl Jennifer on Twitter and listening to the broadcast. So if they have known for 2, 3, 4 weeks, then it doesn't really surprise me that it went this quick. I mean, we saw Michigan State, and granted they were, had been looking for their coach longer, but I think once the interviews are done and the offers are made, it sounds like, and I'm using your information here, John, that maybe there was a offer and then a re-offer. If they already felt like they felt good about him and the only thing that was separating them was some cash, then you could get that deal done pretty quick. So I love the fact that he's honestly a little bit older. Then you don't have as much of a fear that if he has success, that he's going to get snatched up right away. I like the fact that he's got a little bit of experience on his resume in the area, right? Being head coach at IUP. And he's just every one of these places he's went, IUP, James Madison, now Indiana, it's been a rebuild, and he's obviously shown that that's not something that he shies away from. In fact, I think it looks like with his resume, he's kind of leaned into it. So if I'm an Indiana fan, I would be happy. It's been nice to see happy Hoosier fans on my Twitter timeline. It's been a while since I've seen happy coming. Hoosier fans. Yeah. So it's good to see.
A long time.
Yeah.
Decades. No, actually, really.
Be fair though. There were good moments under Tom Allen.
Yeah,
there were good moments.
2019 and 2020 were great, and it set expectations at an even higher bar. So that was a harder fall. But yeah, I know you guys were talking about the hire. I think it is a good hire. I think that Indiana, for as quickly as they were able to do it, was impressive. Scott Dolson I think he did a good job here, but that tale is yet to be written. Of course, he's got a lot of things he has to navigate, mainly recruiting his own players back, as many as he can. But
and maybe more so importantly, I think you're going to see a lot of guys come in from James Madison, especially the guys who were offensive player of the year in the Sun Belt, defensive player in the year. There's also been reports that he's going to be bringing both
the
his
Dion factor
coordinator and defensive coordinator, and potentially the quarterback's coach as well. Obviously, we're probably going to learn a lot more about that when he does his press conference in a few hours.
Absolutely. But I think you're right. I agree with you. And I hadn't even thought about that. And there are so many players that a lot of times would not have gotten the opportunity if it wasn't for something like this, who play at a lower level that are just as good as guys that are playing above them.
No doubt. I mean, I think anybody that really loves the sport of college football especially us old timers. We certainly the way in the college, the way things were done and the way college football operated for years is something that I got used to. So you throw something like the transfer portal in, there are certainly things about it that are not good. Okay. And it doesn't make you a old angry man yelling at cloud person when you point them out. However, the other side of the transfer portal, the good stuff, that cannot be denied either. So if there's somebody from James Madison, a guy or two or three that gets pulled over, and by midseason next year, it's a name that Big Ten fans are familiar with, that's a great story. Hope to see it as a Hoosier fan. And then as in broad terms with the coaching hires, in Michigan State, I think, was proven to have a weaker coach right after the big year. So that was a place where Big Ten fans could pick up an easy win. Indiana faltering down the stretch with Tom Allen. Now you get those two coaches out and two excellent hires back in, and the Big Ten Conference again gets tougher. Top to bottom, we're getting hard to find a coach that's not a great coach. I mean, Northwestern just got coach of the year, right? I mean, where is the bad coach in this conference? Wisconsin, their guy was national coach of the year just 2 years ago. Kirk Ferentz has won 1,000 games. It's just insane, the coaching, acumen inside this conference.
Well, and speaking of coaching and Kirk Ferentz, he is obviously the senior coach of the conference. How long has he been at Iowa now?
25 years. Depending on exactly how you want to do the math.
Longest tenured coach in all of college football, not just the Big Ten, but all of college football.
Yeah, no surprise.
He's probably the longest tenured coach in all of sports. If we really try to,
that may be the truth too. That may be the truth too.
In big time sports, yeah, it's probably no lie there. A question was I just saw. Do you enjoy the style of football that Iowa plays? And do you think Ferentz returns next year? Sean has heard speculation. He may retire following the season. Now, don't confuse that, Sean, with the son who was the OC and will not be returning. I'll turn that over to you. I don't think that Curt Ferentz is ready to retire yet.
I hope not. It's a great question by Sean. I appreciate that. As far as this style of play, do I want to see Iowa struggle to move the ball, especially through the air? No, I don't know if any college football fan wants to see that. I'm old enough to remember some pretty explosive offenses under Snyder and Coach Fry. I mean, we were one of the first teams to absolutely chuck the ball through the air. Now, I was a youngster. I mean, that was in the 80s, but even in the 90s when my brother was playing, we threw the ball. Like, we had a lot of quarterbacks of the year out of Iowa. So that's the style of offense that a lot of Iowa fans got used to. What's happened is Kirk Ferentz over the years has just kind of gravitated towards what works. And what works is being conservative on offense, playing elite defense and special teams, and making teams beat you by doing, getting you over the top and putting points up on the board. I really don't know how you can deny the success it's had. I think Iowa right now is, since 2015, is 8th in the country in Power 5 wins. That's pretty good for a program that people want to make fun of all the time.
I bet if there was a program who consistently was 6-6, 7-5, but they were explosive offenses. Versus a team that was 9-3, 10-2, and duller than a butter knife. I think you will have more complaints with the winninger team than you would the other one.
Well,
and I'm not saying it's right, but I can see how that would go that way.
That's exactly what we have. Iowa is averaging a 9-4 season, so like that's literally what we have. I'm not giving up even one of those wins for excitement. Do I wish I could have the same, if not more, with an exciting offense? Yes. But I think a lot of times what you see is if you go too deep into one side, meaning, you sell your soul to try to have the explosive offense, usually the defense, falls by the wayside, or vice versa. It's tough to do when you're not at a blue blood program. I would think Indiana Hoosier football fans would understand that. It is tough to put both sides of the ball together and special teams and turnovers and pull this thing out. It's not a video game. It doesn't happen that easy. This is hard stuff. And then to get to the second part of the question with KF, Kirk Ferentz, this being his last year, I certainly don't have insider information. I want to be clear there. I don't know, but the speculation is not crazy. Coach Ferentz, I can call him that. He was my coach for a time. He has always been emotional ever since his dad died, quite like over a decade ago. He has been emotional at the end of games, just loves his players that much. But it seems to be an extra layer of emotion this year. I mean, they can't even get the question out after the games, and he's already crying. Certainly, emotion involved with the university making the decision to move on from Brian Ferentz. That wouldn't have been his decision in season. He doesn't like in season stuff like that. Maybe that's added to it, but my answer is I don't know. But I don't think it's a crazy question that Sean or anybody else is asking, that this could be Curt Ferentz's swan song.
One more thing before we go to break. What are you most looking forward to about the new era of college football coming next year with the new teams and conferences, the 12-team playoff, and all that kind of stuff?
Ooh, John, me with a better question.
I know it's kind of on the spot, but just one thing you're looking forward to.
I hope this means there are more teams than just what typically is 5 or 6 teams going after the top 4 spots. I hope that this means it's opened up to 20, 25 teams that still have a shot to make the college football playoffs. If that's how that goes down, then that opens it up to the Iowas and other football programs. Maybe other podcasts aren't so besmirched, aren't so, I don't know what the word is, just jerks, because essentially what you get right now from the ESPN types is if you're not in contention for one of those top 4 spots, you're dog crap. I don't believe that's how the spirit of college football should be. So if it is helped out where the, middle tier and upper tier teams get a little bit of attention from it, I'm all for it, but color me skeptical that that's actually what we get when this all goes down.
Jeffrey the Greek, I am wishing Iowa luck tomorrow as they take on the Wolverines in Jim Harbaugh's his next to last game as Michigan coach, I predict, as I think he will be off with his old buddy Kevin Warren next year with the Chicago Bears. Have fun tomorrow. Enjoy watching the game, brother.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys.
Freak from Eyes on Big podcast, and we've got more coming up as Travis Miller with Boiler Upload joins us next.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Thank you, Jeff.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
What a day. Travis, meet Jeffrey the Greek. He's former Iowa player, Eyes on Big podcast. Somebody good if you ever need for content.
The theme is vehicle-based pods. I should have just went to my truck to do this. I could just pulled up next to my God.
I've never the only thing I didn't do was start the show in the studio and then go mobile and come back to the studio, but almost did that.
Yeah, I know you're frustrated with Jim Harbaugh. But banishing him to the Bears, I mean, is that really that's cruel and unusual punishment?
He deserves worse than that, but that's what I think is gonna happen.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your week. Yep. See you guys.
Talk to you later.
It's like Aaron Rodgers. Are you really going to risk this injury coming back for the Jets? I mean, it's the Jets.
It's been an eventful morning.
I'm sorry, man. It's been an eventful everything, I guess.
It's been a good morning. No, I'm not saying it's been bad. It's been an eventful morning.
Uh-huh.
A lot of excitement around obviously Cignetti.
I guess just color me skeptical and everything, but every time you hear these, I'm just like, okay, I want to see it first. I got burned with Daryl Hazel for crying out loud.
Here's the difference between Daryl Hazel and Curt Cignetti. Daryl Hazel's hire was based off of 1 year of success.
Yeah,
this guy has
true.
coached for 13 years at multiple programs and has not ever had a single losing season, not once. Now, I'm not saying this guy's the next Nick Saban, but this guy can be good for this kind of program with Indiana. I think that's the major talking point with it.
I think he knows how to grow a program. Hey,
and that's what you need.
Big William, how you doing, brother? I hope you're doing well, man. Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you again soon, man. Speaking of which, everybody living down south and this anywhere in southern Indiana, make sure you stop by. And
family dentistry that we're
well,
that's cool.
That's the big man there. That's the big boss. That's the big man.
Nice to put a face to the logo, or put a name to the logo, I should say.
Dr. J, his son Dr. J's in there now.
Okay.
Big Bill just runs things now. All
right, here we go.
He's emeritus. It's better than a birdie, but you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, and it has been a wild and wacky Friday as we have been all over the port. How appropriate is that? We have been all over the airport. From to the airport and back to the studios here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Welcome in Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. And Travis, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's been wild and wacky. We were out at the airport to see the arrival of Indiana's new football coach, Curt Cignetti. Purdue went through this same situation last year with Ryan Walters, bringing in a new coach. The difference is Purdue was coming off of some success with Jeff Brom, having a good run there at Purdue before he left. And of course Purdue lost a lot of players through the portal because of that. Whenever you have a coaching change, Indiana now has a ton of guys that are in the portal. I think their entire offensive line, a quarterback, a running back, most of the defensive line, I believe, but that doesn't mean they're going to lose. How many was he able to get any of those players back last year that went into the portal for Purdue?
I don't believe so, and that kind of showed what happened this year. There were a couple of big departures on the offensive and defensive line. I'm thinking Spencer Holstage went to UCLA, Branson Dean went to the University of Miami, and that's really where things kind of showed up this year. And I think that's where teams really need to concentrate and build through the portal is you've got to get those offensive linemen. And that's where Purdue is concentrating right now. They've got a bunch of offers out right now for various offensive linemen, various defensive linemen. And I think they showed late in the season that they can get the offense up and moving a little bit if they've got those guys up front that are blocking, creating holes in the running game. Devin Mockabee and Hudson Card and Tyrone Tracy all had solid finishes to the season. And like you saw Hudson Card in the bucket game, just a tremendous game, avoiding any pressure. So I think that you'll see a lot of schools just go for that, and it becomes those offensive linemen become quite coveted in the portal.
Yeah, and that is something where Indiana has been hit hard, and that hits home because that has been probably had been the weakest unit for them until it got kind of turned around. With Rod Carey started it last year, and then Bob Bostick had really done a great job after they finally fired Darren Hiller, which came 2 years too late. Unfortunately, is one of the reasons Michael Penix is in Washington, why Jack Tuttle is in Michigan. But that's neither here nor there. You have to have a solid offensive line to start, or you're kind of screwed. You can't run the ball, you can't throw the ball. And if you can't run the ball, can't throw the ball, you're going to have a hard time winning games. But it'll be interesting to see what he can do in that regard. This is going to be his first foray into the portal world. He hasn't had to do that before, talking in regards to Curt Cignetti. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to this new Big Ten as we get closer. Of course, we've got the championship game left, but that I think that I'm not expecting. I personally am not expecting any drama there. I think this will be a game similar to what the Penn State game was like, that saw Penn State beat Iowa 31-0. And I think that that's kind of how this game is going to go, but we'll see. I'm not positive, but Michigan looks just pretty damn solid.
I'm hoping Iowa finds a way to win this 2-0 and Curt Ferentz ascends to his final form. Just because that would be absolutely hilarious. I keep hoping that he was going to do that. And there was one game this year, I think it was Illinois, that they were leading 2-0 very early on. So that's just, the man won a game against South Dakota State without a touchdown, 2 safeties and a field goal. He had the famous 6-4 win against Penn State a few years ago. I'm all for just, him doing whatever is possible to muck this up, ugly it up, and it's worked for him. I mean, you're one controversial fair catch from them being 11-1 and legitimately in the playoff consideration. I can't explain it. I don't know how they have managed to win 10 games without a functional offense, but they've done it. And so
because they play in the Big Ten West is a good start.
Yeah, I mean that probably does help a lot. The Big Ten West was not great this year, but they just do it year after year after year, and I think at this point you just kind of marvel at it and be like, okay, let's see what can happen. Honestly,
I'm interested I'm trying to get the standings pulled up to see how many teams over in the West are right. All right, here we go. Oh no, they could have. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 and 6 teams in the Big Ten West. 4.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Iowa, I believe, did not win any Big Ten West game by more than 9 points. So
did they win any game by more than 9 points?
I think Western Michigan, maybe Rutgers. I think they shut out Rutgers like 21-0 or something. But yeah, every Big Ten West game with them was like a 1-possession game that came down to the very end. But they managed to win them all. And
now those were conference records. I said that was not overall.
Yeah,
but there still are only those teams all had ended up with losing records overall. So you only had 3 teams in the on each side. Well, actually, no. Maryland ended up 7-5, and Rutgers goes 6-6. So again, the East is able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams bowl eligible. And Michigan State was just 2 off of that mark, surprisingly. But 4 teams from the East bowl eligible, and then you've got 2 teams that went 7-5 in the West, including Northwestern, who went through what they went through. That's remarkable that they were able to have that season. They're going to a damn bowl game.
David Braun was definitely the correct choice for Big Ten Coach of the Year. I don't see how anybody could have chosen anybody else, because this time last year he was at North Dakota State as the defensive coordinator, and then suddenly he is the head coach of a Big Ten program, And with 6 weeks warning, he takes the team that was the worst team the last 2 years to 7 wins. I mean, I got nothing but respect for him, man. He got the job done.
And see, Dabney says that talking about Curt Cignetti, that he could be 67 or 68 before the rebuild is ready to get to a bowl. I disagree with that. It does not take that long anymore. You don't have to be Ohio State or Auburn or Alabama to go to a bowl game. Northwestern just did it, like I said, in the middle of a damn coaching change, not just a coaching change, but an entire upheaval of their program. So, no, it can be done, and it can be done. Now, how quickly? I don't know. Indiana could have went to a bowl this year. If they would have had this coaching staff, I think that they become bowl eligible. There were games that they lost that they shouldn't have lost, or that they could have won. And Michigan State game, how many games were they in the lead and they give up? They played Penn State well at Penn State. Not to say that they would have won that game, but there were winnable games. And next year, they've got 3 bye games. I call them bye wins. You know, they've gone back to where their non-con schedule is meant to give you that 3-0, 3 wins, no losses deal. So now you've got to find 3 out of the 9 Big Ten games that you play to win. And they're there. They're just going to have to do one. They're going to have to win 1 game on the road. They're going to have to do one thing to get to a bowl next year. I truly believe that, depending on how much they end up losing. But it can be done, and it does not have – football is no longer – or sports are no longer a 3 to 4 year rebuild because of the portal. It's a 1 to 2 year thing that can happen now.
That first year, I think, is the toughest, because most of the time you have an opening, you're hiring a guy, and within a week, he has to both recruit the portal and hold on to any high school recruiting class that's there.
And his own players.
And his own players. I mean, that is ridiculously tough. I don't envy any of these coaches. That's the hardest part of the year, probably, is getting that roster lined up, because you just don't know what you've got to work with when you're walking in. I mean, Deion Sanders is obviously the wild exception with that roster turnover, but I'm just looking at what Purdue's got right now.
But in the end, how well did that work out for him?
Right.
It started out looking wonderful, but by the time that was over, that was not quite the case, as Colorado is not going to be bowl eligible. Their season, they did not have an offensive line, basically.
They were 4-8. They ended the year 4-8.
There you go. Not having an offensive line will kill you, man. This has been a wild and wacky show. Sorry we weren't their segment wasn't as long as normal, but we were running around today and it's been crazy. But Travis, let's see. So Purdue, what's up next for Purdue basketball?
They are at Northwestern tonight.
Besides being ranked number 1 for only the second year in their history, which now they're going to be bouncing up around that number 1 spot all year long, because there's not a lot of losses they're going to take, but they have a tough schedule coming up.
They are at Northwestern tonight in Big Ten play. They have Iowa next week, and then the 2 remaining non-conference games against Alabama and Arizona after that are going to be really fun to watch. You've got the potential for a number 1 versus number 2 game against Arizona in 2 weeks at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. I believe it would be only the 44th number 1 versus number 2 game in college basketball history. First one ever involving Purdue. And that really looks like a very good game to watch. And then
when is the Gainbridge?
It is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So December 16th, 15th. Yes, 16th. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
And all right, so they play Arizona?
Yes, they play Arizona. It's part of the Indy Classic. First game that day is Ball State, Indiana State there. But obviously the big one, Purdue, Arizona, marquee matchup. The week before that, Purdue goes to play Alabama in Toronto to give Zach Edey a home game. So they're stepping out of the country for that one. And
Alabama just lost to Ohio State. Number 17 Alabama lost to Ohio State last Friday in 92-81. And the same day that Purdue is playing Arizona, Indiana
1 minute
hosting Kansas. So big weekend of hoops in the Indiana State that weekend. Travis, thank you so much, man. Make sure you give Travis a follow and dig up at Boiler Upload for any information you're looking for on the Boilermakers. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. We'll see him next week. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Like I said, if you're a Purdue fan, go to Boiler Upload for all your information. Or even if you're not, if you want to see what's going on with them, go there. Check out thehoosier.com for all the coverage on Indiana's newest football coach, in addition to Indiana playing at home tonight against Maryland. The men's soccer team tomorrow to see if they can make it to the College Cup, as they are in South Bend to take on Notre Dame, number 2 Notre Dame. The winner goes to Louisville for the College Cup. We'll be at today's press conference for Curt Cignetti, and then, of course, tonight after the game with Todd Leary as Indiana takes on Maryland from Hoosier Hanks Eats over off of College Mall Road. Woo, baby, that's a great show today. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Cannot thank you enough. Cannot thank Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman, Jeffrey the Greek, Travis Miller, and John the producer for not pulling his hair out on a wild day. Most importantly, thanks to you guys for being with us as we try to always bring you the best content as fast as possible. Until later on tonight, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.